Most of them are either Jesuits or Freemasons, and they're a club. So naturally they have a consensus. Now this Trojan horse, with its experts, told us how to behave in COVID. Told us to wear masks, do this and do that. Looking back at it, we can see that most of what they advise is wrong. And yet, many people continue to defer to experts. Why is this? Well, I put it down to education. Because education is information plus disinformation plus programming. And young people that come out of college after 15 years, God knows how much debt, they imagine that a man and a woman, that's optional, that carbon dioxide is going to kill us all, and that the problem with Britain is that there's too many British people. So, the real problem is they can't put it to one side. How can they? Because they've invested 15 years of their life, maybe 30,000, 40,000 pounds in debt. How can they put that to one side? They can't. They're going to double down on it. By and large, they're going to double down on it. And the same thing can be said about honest folk, ordinary people and extraordinary people, who during their later years, in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, maybe older, they want to gain more knowledge. So they might go on courses, they might go to Waterstones, they might buy a bunch of books about whatever interests them, history, the sciences, art, whatever. And the same thing's happening. They're getting a mixture of information and disinformation because the Franklin School, Tavistock, they control more or less most of the publishing houses. So they're getting that same programming. And again, you put so much time and energy into it that you're not going to throw it away. You've got that knowledge now. You're not going to start again. You're invested. And that's a shame. Now I'm going to talk about something else. Because there's another animal entered the room. It's become a menagerie. Noah's Ark. And this animal is the Jabberwocky. The Jabberwocky that we're not allowed to talk about. That in France and Canada is illegal. You can go to jail talking about the Jabberwocky. But not here. And me, I'm inconsequential. So I can say, oh, that's what I like. With no fear of the consequences. So if you just indulge me for a couple of minutes, I'll talk about the Jabberwocky. There's some interesting statistics that we can trust to a certain degree because they're straightforward, a simple count. And I'm talking about Western countries. They keep these stats on the overall death rate. It's a monthly stat, total overall death rate in every country in the Western world. And you can compare that with the monthly rate for 5 years on average before the COVID. You can make a direct comparison. And that will show you, if you go back 2 years on these monthly stats, it will show you the effect of the rollout of the Jabberwocky. That's what I'm going to do. Now, where do I get my facts from? Now, I get them from UK College to a degree, but largely from one Dr. John Campbell. Now, I trust this guy because he's an honest guy, and it's very obvious when you watch his blogs on YouTube. You know that he's an honest guy. But he's a mainstreamer. I mean, if a conspiracy came up and put a hammer on his head, they wouldn't recognise it as a conspiracy. This guy, Campbell, is confused. He doesn't understand what's going on in the world. He doesn't understand. You can see his puzzled mind. Why am I the only one talking about this? When he started off, he was 4 years ago. He was worried about COVID, and he was hoping that the vaccines, but they weren't vaccines, they were jabs. He was hoping that the jabs would be good. And consistently, he's studying charts because he's a very, very good analyzer of statistics. Plus, he knows about the heart and the way the heart works as well. He's a doctor as well. And gradually, his statistics have pushed him and pushed him and pushed him over 4 years to where he doesn't want to be. And now he's the leading voice on the harmful effects of the jabs. In Canada, where the lockdown was most severe, where people were pressed into taking the jab, the overall death rate comparison is a 24% increase. It's like the Black Death in Canada. In Australia and New Zealand, for the same reasons, it's 15%. In the UK, it's 10%. And in America, it's about 10%. 10% is like twice as many people dying as there would be in your average pandemic. And there's a couple of strange things. One is that the eastern countries, such as Serbia and Bulgaria, thank you very much, it's level. Over 7 years, it's not completely level, but it's more or less level over 7 years. The other strange comparison is that during the COVID years, it was 3%, 3 times less. And don't forget, the hospitals ceased to function. People with cancer, needing operations, were neglected. Old people were cold, taken out of hospitals, put in care homes, given dodgy medicines. And generally speaking, there was a depression, and people lost the will to live. That more or less takes care of the 3%. Right, now I'm going to go back to science. I'm going to talk about, and I don't know much about science, just the bare bones. But I'm going to talk about real science, not pseudoscience. Pseudoscience is about theory and speculation. Real science is about fact, unchanging fact. And you get that through the tried and tested laws of thermodynamics. And you also get it from an experiment using the scientific method. That's what I'm going to talk about. First law of thermodynamics. You can't make matter from nothing. And you can't take a little bit of matter and make a lot of matter for the same reason. And you can't, well, you can sort of destroy matter. You can pulverise it, but you won't get rid of a single particle. It'll just change its form. It'll be pulverised, it'll turn into dust. So you can't disappear matter, and you can't make matter from nothing. Very simple. Second law of thermodynamics is about entropy, and it's about liquids and air. I'm going to do it with air because we need air, so we talk about gases. Air will always flow from high pressure to low pressure. There's no stopping it, it always happens. High pressure to low pressure. That's the way air goes, because it wants equilibrium, it wants to be set, it wants to find equilibrium. And it will move in all sorts of directions to get equilibrium, but always high pressure to low pressure. There's no exceptions to that. So, it's the second law of thermodynamics. Now, the scientific experiment is pretty straightforward. You take a phenomenon, you witnessed it, if you're a scientist, and you test it out. You test it out by setting up an experiment. But what you're looking for is the likely cause of the phenomenon. So what you do is, in the experiment, you wriggle about the likely cause. You change it. Make it smaller, larger, stronger, weaker, hotter, colder. You change it according to what's applicable. And then you look at the phenomenon. And if it wriggles about in the same way, in exactly the same way, corresponding way, you think you've found your likely cause. And it goes down as a positive test. And then it gets redone by 100 scientists or so. And if they all find it positive, it becomes a theory. And if 20 years later, thousands of scientists have tried it, and all of them have no exception, it becomes a fact. It's laid there as a successful experiment, and it will be true forever. These things that I've talked about will never change. They will never be found to be incorrect. They never have been. As far as I know, they never have been. Whereas when you look at pseudoscience, everything's changing all the time. It's like a passion. String theory, black holes, all the time it's changing. And they boast about that. They say, oh, science is always changing. We're always looking at different things and changing. And it fools. And that's part of the reason that they don't deal with real science. They hardly ever talk about real science. Because it doesn't fool people. You can't deceive people with real science. With pseudoscience, you can dream up all sorts of crazy things, and it will deceive people. And I'm going to finish by giving you 5 examples of fooling people with pseudoscience. I'll take a little drink. Close to my mouth. So the first thing, the Big Bang. The Big Bang is the idea by the Maitre Jesuit. The Big Bang is the idea that there's nothing. It's the start of everything, so there's nothing. And nothing implodes. But sometimes, because they like a little bit of difference, a scientist will say, well, maybe it was an atom, or maybe it was a molecule that imploded and produced everything we see around us, all the different elements and everything, from this one little thing or nothing. It's like, well, for a start, it's a violation of the first law of thermodynamics. It's anti-science. It's like saying, there's a building, a derelict building, just outside Glasgow. We'll have a big bang, implode it. All the materials that go in the air scatter, and then come down as the Scottish version of the Albert Hall. The second one. Scientists will tell you it's the ground, and there's the air that we breathe. You go up on a mountain, and it's not so easy to breathe because there's not as much oxygen. But we go a bit higher, and then there's very light gases as you go up higher. And then, lo and behold, without any division between the two, you've got a vacuum, or a near vacuum, defying the second law of thermodynamics. It's impossible. If that was true, the air would simply rush into the vacuum and we'd all be dead. And we're not dead, so it can't be true. Another violation of the law of thermodynamics. Thirdly, the moon. They tell us the moon is a round rock. It's not a round rock. Just use your eyes. When you look at a full moon, it's the same intensity all the way across. It's a cold white light. Now that is not a reflection of the sun. There are no highlights, there's no shading. The moon has its own light. Furthermore, it can change its shape. It can be a crescent, it can be a half moon. Furthermore, it can change its colour. About 8 years ago, I got up at 3:30 in the morning because I knew that there'd be a blood moon. And I went out with my own eyes. I saw, because there was no clouds that night, the most spectacular red moon. It was sort of glistening with strange, just a strange feeling about it, like it had a skin or something. It was totally weird. I don't know what the moon is. It's magical. It's a mystery. It's an enigma. I haven't got a clue what it is. And there are some alternative scientists who work outside the mainstream who say that it could be working in harness with the sun as a kind of capacitor. And those changes in the light are like energy changes. I don't know. It makes sort of sense. But obviously, I don't think they know. I don't think anyone knows what the moon is. I do know that we never went to the moon. I know that. I know that because I know that a rocket, I've seen loads of rockets, NASA's rockets, I've seen all of them, 50 of them. They're the same as fireworks. They go up, and then they bend, and then they start to go down, and then the camera cuts out. I've never seen a rocket go straight up and watched it disappear. Never. So we didn't go to the moon. NASA says we did. 12 astronauts, 6 trips, all perfect. Astronauts came back, told us all about it. With all sorts of contradictions, but we leave that to one side. Leave that to one side. But incidentally, there were, I think 10 of the astronauts were 33-degree Masons, and 2 of them were Mormons. And that's how I discovered that the Mormons were another secret society. There's no end to it. And NASA says, oh, we did it. Yeah, we did it in 1969. Can't do it anymore, we've lost the technology. As if technology can go backwards for 50 years. I mean, these people are crazy. But the most crazy thing was the lander. Do you remember the lander? I think it was done in a kiddies' playground. From coat hangers and what was that?
A golf cart.
A golf cart. And coat hangers and duct tape all over the place. Don't you kiddies' playground? Did you see it? It rose about when it left to conjoin, to dock with the flying tin can going around the moon at thousands of miles an hour. Yeah. Did you see how the camera panned up? And NASA doesn't talk about these unsung heroes. These cameramen that were left on the moon to suffocate and die. We never went to the moon. And fourthly, I like this one. Elon Musk. There's a man who must be the favourite child of Midas, or the elite of the elite. He puts his hand out and someone puts a sack of gold in it. Elon Musk. So he wakes up one day and he thinks, oh, I just thought of a great idea in a dream I had last night. I'm going to advertise my Tesla car. I'm going to do CGI all day long. He goes to a studio and does CGI. Later on we see pictures of what he's done. He has sent a rocket up into the near vacuum, and the doors have slid open, and out pops a Tesla car. and it's driven by a robot. Elon is really good on robots, but this robot is not very good. It doesn't move at all. It's like a plastic statue. And this plastic statue drives the Tesla car round the moon a couple of times and then off to Mars. The thing is, we laugh, but the thing is, it comes on the news and Elon gets interviewed for the next couple of days. No newscaster says, "Come on Elon, fess up, that was CGI." No one says that to him. Not one single scientist says, "Come on, it was a fake." Not one scientist in the Royal Society. Proving, absolutely proving, that they're a club. And that they're laughing at us, like Einstein with his tongue out. Laughing at us because we can be so gullible. Last of all, evolution. Dawkins, Richard Dawkins. There's a man who has many previous lives. As a matter of fact, millions of previous lives. Because he can remember everything. He can go right back to the beginning. The primal swamp and the electrical accident or the chemical weirdness that created a single cell life form. And they call it, biologists, they call it Protos. Protos, never heard of Protos before. I think in terms of the other one, what's the other one? Amoeba. That's the common one. No, it's Protos. But I think it's a dork. I'm going to call it a dork. And this dork eats a lot of algae. Over the millions of years, it becomes a little titchy, wishy. Then it keeps on eating. Another couple of million years, it becomes a minnow. Then again, it becomes a stickleback. Then again, it becomes a roach. And then, after another 10 million years, it becomes a big fish, like a pike. Yeah, pike. It gets really ambitious, wants to be amphibious. So it slides onto the mud, and it waggles its fins about, and it thinks, "Wow, why can't I have little arms and little legs? It'd be so much easier to get around." So, mind over matter in another couple of million years, and it grows little arms and little legs. The dog's got little arms and little legs. Give him another couple of million years, and his legs will get longer, and his arms will get longer, and he'll become Richard Dawkins, a human being. The only problem is, when you look at the fossil record, there's millions and billions of fossils that have been closely examined. Not one of them has been found that's anywhere near halfway between one species and another species. That's it.
Well done.
Thank you very much, Dave. Are there any questions today? Right, gentleman at the back, Tony.
I would like to question you about two of your examples of pseudoscience. First of all, you say that there's nothing holding the Earth's atmosphere on the planet. But in 1798, Henry Cavendish did an experiment which measured the force of attraction between two lead spheres. So we know that all matter attracts each other. And as the Earth has a very large mass, it is obviously going to attract the atmosphere and hold it to the planet. And secondly, you say that the moon emits its own light. So how do you explain lunar eclipse, where the Earth comes in between the sun and the moon, and we see the shadow of the Earth on the moon?
Remind me about the eclipse later. Cavendish did an experiment. He was in a ship, he had a back garden with a shed. Took 2 big bulls and boiled them up. And he watched every day to see if they moved closer together. Newton's theory has been debunked by science itself. You're 108 years out of date, because it's been taken over now by the bending of space-time, whatever that is. Einstein changed Newton's theory 108 years ago. And the second one that you mentioned, remind me what it was?
The lunar eclipse.
The lunar eclipse. Yeah, very weird that. We had one in America about 6 years ago. Mate, I went over it, I look at it. I said, how big was the circle of the shadow? He said, oh, it was publicised and it was measured. It was 70 miles. Well, the moon is supposed to be, according to the heliocentric system, and we're getting near, a little bit near flat Earth for comfort, too near for comfort. But it's supposed to be much bigger than that. The moon is supposed to be much bigger than that. It's a third the size of Earth. It should be about 2,500 miles, that shadow. Shadows don't get smaller they get bigger, but they don't get smaller. So the moon must be only 70 miles wide or less, according to that. But I mean, I know that you're a very educated man. I know you're a very well-read man, better read than me. So I'll leave it there and thank you for your contribution, Tony.
Can I just have a rebuttal? Your description
Tony, you need to put yourself down to do a talk. You're in your own right.
Tony.
Okay, we've got that deal.
I just have a very brief question for you, which is, who do you think Richard Dawkins is working for?
Great question. I was going to ask that as well.
It'd be working for the people in the Royal Society. It'd be working for the agenda, and the agenda is worked out by corporations and multi-billionaires, and God knows how they do it. I would read David Icke, and you'll get a fairly clear idea of how it's done. Is incredible. There's so many secret societies. There's so many non-government organisations. There's about 5,000 non-government organisations, and they're worse than governments. And they're all over the place. You know, they're in every town. Councillors, if they want to do something, they have to go to a non-government organisation to be told what to do and how to do it. It's absolutely incredible.
Could I add something, Dave? To get back to the subject of science, I think a lot of us thought it was very interesting how scientists suddenly became gods over the course of COVID, and they couldn't be questioned. They were suddenly elevated human beings, incapable of being corrupted, incapable of being bribed. And one of my favourite memes made the comment, if scientists were forced to wear badges on their coats, like racing drivers are, we'd all know who sponsors them. But anyway, I think that's something that people are waking up to now, that they're fallible human beings just like anyone else, and they're just subject to bribery, and basically their research has to follow the direction in which their sponsorship money wants it to. So I don't know if you'd agree with that or not. Sorry, it's not really a question, but...
Yeah, I agree with that. Scientists are they're not independent-minded at all. Not at all. In fact, they're deceivers. They're the biggest deceivers. I mean, most of us in this room know that we never went to the moon, don't we? Most of us know that. Or at least we think there's a 60% chance we never went to the moon. But probably we all know. Not one single scientist, as far as I know, not one single scientist.
Do a poll.
Who believes the moon was real? Yes.
Yeah. Hands up who believes we went to the moon.
Sorry, what's the question? Who went?
Buzz Aldrin went to the moon.
Buzz Aldrin, I didn't.
Yeah, I think you can down on that one, yeah.
It's almost possible now for you to check if they went to the moon, because when they're up there, they said they left mirrors there. And if you've got an accurate laser, at the moment you need to be a university to do it. You can actually bounce the laser, supposedly, off the moon and detect reflection. And that's how one of the ways to actually measure the speed of light, verify the speed of light. So it won't be that long until everyone can check for themselves in their own back garden went
Oh,
through
yeah.
there.
Well,
I'll
I
wait for the day then.
would trust people checking for themselves in their own back garden, yeah.
You want to see the Earth rotating for 24 hours. No CGI.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm on the fence on that one, don't worry, but
Okay,
yeah, that
okay,
sounded a
I'm
bit
going
far-fetched
to
up there.
draw the
I believe
evening
what you
to a
said.
close now because it's
Yeah.
just after 10. So we'd love to get home. Thank you so much, Dave Patchett.
One announcement. I gave out some cards for a discussion group, and my number, because some of the cards didn't have my number on, is 44 Selborne Road. So check the cards, 44 Selborne Road. Thank you.
Yes, Dave runs a monthly discussion group in his home, so if anyone's local and are interested, Dave. Okay, I want to say thank you very much for Dr. Neil Craig. I want to thank George Cransfield very much, and I want to thank Dave Patchett we're back here on Tuesday, April 23rd. If you'd like to put yourself forward to do a talk, please talk to Gloria over there. Our wonderful